Long-term rentals, Edinburgh's regulatory landscape. Let me tell you, navigating long-term rentals in Edinburgh right now, it's a whole different ballgame than it was even just 5 years ago. Honestly, if you'd told me in 2018 that we'd be dealing with rent caps, STL licensing spillover, and localized control zones, I'd have said you were dreaming. But here we are, and if you're managing or investing in property in Scotland's capital, it's time to get real about the current regulatory maze. So what's going on? Edinburgh's rent pressure zone? Well, not quite. Remember all that chat a while back about rent pressure zones, RPZs? Yeah, turns out they were more of a theoretical tool than a practical one. Councils had the ability to apply to the Scottish government to limit rent increases, but the bar was ridiculously high. Tons of evidence required, months of waiting, and by the time you'd even get a response, classic. But now, thanks to emergency legislation under the Cost of Living Tenant Protection Scotland Act 2022, we're seeing an actual national rent cap, albeit temporary. At one point, it was frozen entirely at 0%. From April 2024, it moved to 3% per annum for ongoing tenancies, though landlords can apply for up to 6% increases if their costs are spiraling. Sounds simple, but trust me, it's not. One of my landlords in Marchmont, he was trying to justify a 6% hike because of rising maintenance costs. Legit costs. I saw the invoices. Still had to wait weeks for a decision. Meanwhile, his fixed-rate mortgage expired, and the new rate doubled overnight. Stressful doesn't even begin to cover it. Local authority licensing chaos, aka the STL hangover. While this article is about long-term lets, you can't ignore the ripple effect of short-term let STL licensing. Edinburgh was one of the first cities to go all in with the STL clampdown. Licensing, planning control zones, the whole shebang. The result? A lot of former Airbnb landlords pivoted, but not necessarily to traditional long-term lets. Some are selling up altogether. Too much hassle. Others are offering 6-month lets or mid-term furnished arrangements, which frankly skirt the lines of regulation. I had one landlord call me up in February and say, I'll give them 7 months max, then review. When I asked why, he said, I'm waiting to see what the council bans next. Can't argue with the logic. PRS reform. Renters' rights are expanding. If you haven't read the draft of the new Housing Scotland bill, grab a coffee, because it's thick. Key proposal? Ending no-fault evictions entirely. That means landlords may soon have to prove grounds in every situation, even if they want to sell. And don't get me started on the proposed rent adjudication reforms. Oh, and there's talk of a national rent control system post-2025, based on local affordability assessments, or reference rents. Translation? Bureaucratic chaos, at least for a while. Just last week, I sat with a couple in Leith considering whether to turn their 2-bed flat into a company let just to avoid the hassle. But I warned them, more red tape could be coming for that sector too. Tenant demand still through the roof. Here's the kicker. Despite all the regulation, tenant demand in Edinburgh is absolutely bananas. We're talking 50+ enquiries within hours of listing a central 1-bed. Students, young professionals, remote workers, it's a gold rush. But here's the catch. Many private landlords are pulling out because of uncertainty. Take my client in Morningside. She's a seasoned landlord with 3 BTLs. Her strategy used to be rock solid. But after the rent cap extension and stricter eviction laws, she sold one, listed another for sale, and told me she's keeping just one for now. Property management is no longer optional. Seriously, if you're self-managing in Edinburgh in 2025 and you haven't got a grip on the rules, you're playing with fire. The compliance burden is real. EPC minimums, electrical and fire safety checks, landlord registration renewals, LHA changes. It's a minefield. One missed form and bam, a penalty or worse, a tribunal. I had to intervene for a landlord who forgot to renew their landlord registration on time. Tenant found out, Probably via TikTok or something. Reported them, and the council got involved. Painful process. All avoidable. So, what's the outlook? Uncertain. But also full of opportunity for the right investors, especially those willing to play the long game and get professional help. One savvy buyer I worked with last month snapped up a tenement flat in Newington at a slight discount. It needed work. Yes, but they're planning a full retrofit to meet future EPC targets and will be renting to NHSQ workers under a company lease. That kind of strategic thinking? Priceless. Also, Edinburgh is a resilient market. Always has been. Even when regulations tighten, demand doesn't drop. It shifts. Smart agents and landlords are already adapting. Are you? Because honestly, long-term rentals in Edinburgh aren't for the faint of heart anymore. But for the brave,